Hi, this is your Swapnil Bhartia and welcome to your Let's Talk. And today we have with us Dmitry Shapiro, CEO and founder of MindStudio. Dmitry, it's great to have you on the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure to host you here today. And this is the first time, if I'm not wrong, I'm talking to someone from MindStudio since you're a founder of the company. I would love to know a bit about the history and the story of the company, when and why you created the company, what problem you folks are trying to solve.
These days, I describe myself as an old nerd. I started writing code in 1984. And since then have had a kind of a long career in the tech space and software. Prior to starting this company, I was at Google for 4 years on the main campus, leading product on a number of machine learning teams. Before that, I was the chief technology officer of MySpace Music. And then prior to that, I built 2 other venture capital-backed companies. One was a major competitor to YouTube called VO Networks. Raised $70 million in venture capital there. Before that, I built a cybersecurity company called Aconix Systems, raised $34 million in venture capital. And then in the mid-90s, from 1995 to 99, I built the web team at a big Japanese company called Fujitsu. So I and my co-founder, Sean Thielen, are, tech nerds. And, it became very clear to us. Well, first of all, I've been involved with, again, sort of AI/machine learning for, over a decade. When I was running VO, the YouTube competitor, we were doing video recommendations before YouTube was doing them. And so we started doing machine learning at that time. And then obviously at Google and MySpace, I led teams that did that. And so we've been watching this space for all this time, and it became clear to us, 2 years ago that, once again, the world has hit a major inflection point with sort of the availability of this new type of AI that we generally call, generative AI. In these language models and image and code and video and kind of all these other things. And anyway, and decided to build MindStudio. We've been in market for just over a year. Now have over 50,000 AI applications that have been built using MindStudio that are deployed in giant enterprises, government agencies, thousands of small businesses, etc.
I want to come back to MindStudio. Let's talk about, when I look at this impressive career that you have, what led to the creation of MindStudio?
Sean and I tend to pursue our interests. And we, even though we've sort of been in AI for a long time, generative AI is new. And it became clear to us after ChatGPT sort of became popular that there was a need for there to be a platform that could allow kind of any type of organization, small company to giant companies, to be able to leverage these various generative AI models. We predicted very early that there was going to be a lot of competition. It wasn't just going to be, GPT, that there were going to be many different types of models. Not only language models, but other types of models, and that enterprises really need the ability to leverage any of these models in order to be able to do what enterprises do, which is to do their business. And business is always a function of, how efficient are you? How productive are you on a sort of per employee basis? How quick can you move to take advantage of opportunities? How intelligent are you at picking targets of what your business is working on, et cetera? And so these are business dynamics that have existed always, but now with generative AI, there's this new opportunity for enterprises to become radically more efficient and intelligent and productive. And so, again, when we saw the adoption of ChatGPT and realized that this was sort of the beginning of a race, we decided to invest in building MindStudio and bring it to market.
Can you now talk about the approach that you folks have adopted at MindStudio when it comes to Nocode AI? First of all, AI, AI has been around for ages now. ChatGPT, Open, AI, and LLMs, they have kind of rekindled our interest in AI. Companies are trying to embrace, but then every like major companies, they have all the resources, but smaller companies, they sometimes struggle to find talent pool. Actually, with all the layoff that is happening, there is a big talent pool as in the market. But regardless, talk about your approach, this no code AI tool approach. How does it help teams, and why you kind of adopted this approach to help organizations?
This term AI, to the point you're bringing up, has been around for a very long time. Most information technology services we use today are powered by machine learning behind the scenes. And so we've been using AI as a civilization for decades now. All of the recommendation systems, for example, that recommend products or videos or anything else, Google search and all of these things behind the scenes are powered by quote unquote AI, machine learning. Generative AI is this new type of capability, right, to be able to not only do prediction, which is kind of what the other AI technologies do, but to be able to generate output that is really, really valuable to organizations. And so when ChatGPT launched, lots of early adopter organizations leaned in and gave their employees access to ChatGPT or other large language models like Claude or Gemini or like whatever, and sometimes even taught them to be kind of prompt engineers, taught them some skills of like how do you query these models, and have found out very quickly that that's actually not a very productive approach to being able to leverage the capabilities of these models. And so the approach that MindStudio takes is to say, learn to use MindStudio. And so people show up at our website and sign up for free and watch some YouTube tutorials. And 20 minutes later, they're able to start creating AI-powered applications, as we call them. And what they use these things for is to kind of look at their business, no matter what their business is, and look at their business processes, right? Like operations and sales and marketing, HR, et cetera, and look at the way those things operate. And then they start to realize that a bunch of the things that they're doing today with humans, with employees, they can actually use MindStudio to create AI-powered applications that automate those parts of the workflow. And they can do that very rapidly, like in an afternoon. They can take things that a team of humans has been doing and completely automate it so that the humans can do something else. And so like every organization has these types of inefficiencies, and generative AI orchestrated using something like MindStudio allows them to automate that thing. Once they've automated everything that can be completely automated, they are left with things that still require humans. The next step they take is to look at those things and say, can we build new, again, also AI-powered applications that can do the heavy lifting? The human is still involved, but in a sense, the AI is driving the process, and the human is just there for supervision. And so the AI can work extremely rapidly, obviously much quicker than a human can. And humans are just there to fill in whenever AI needs help, in a sense. And they can build those kinds of applications also in an afternoon. And once they've done that, they can look at the rest of the things that truly require humans to be in the driver's seat and driving it. And the next thing they can do is build for those humans new business applications that are AI powered, but that humans themselves drive. And then sort of a bunch of other things. And so we allow these organizations to very rapidly build these custom AI applications. They are model agnostic, so you can use all the models, including your own private models. Many enterprises now have their own private models in their private cloud or on-premise. We allow them to connect to those models and use those models in their applications.
What kind of challenges organizations face when it comes to using AI to build applications? There are so many technologies. Even if the market is small, there are some big players. At the same time, if we look at the smaller, then there are so many players. the vendor sprawl is not that much, but you still have to pick and choose, where do you want to go. Amazon is doing their own thing, Apple is doing their own thing, Microsoft is their own thing, Google, Meta, and then OpenAI is a big player, and then there are so many other players. So they do have to comb through this, the whole vendor sprawl there. It kind of reminds me of the complexity of Kubernetes. It's not actually that much at this point, but how does MindStudio allows them to, once again, we always talk about let developers focus on writing business application, not get worried about all the complexity that comes with either, the underneath technologies or plumbing. So talk about how you get them started very quickly so that, they don't have to go through all this process of picking, choosing, integration. And I mean, how much complexities can be there.
Yeah, look, I think it's a very important point. I think, before MindStudio, or, organizations that don't yet know MindStudio are stuck in this analysis paralysis of like, I need to figure out, do I use, OpenAI or Anthropic or Mistral or like any of these other providers? And then they sort of go through this analysis phase. Our approach is to say, that's silly. You don't need to be doing that. You should leverage the right model for the right part of the job that you are trying to, orchestrate, right? And in fact, most of the AIs that are built with MindStudio today call different models from different providers in the same AI. So imagine a workflow that starts somewhere and continues, right? And it's got many different steps. Some of those steps might call, GPT 3.5 Turbo because it's a great, inexpensive model that has great results in being able to take, a document and extract a bunch of salient points from it. It then might take that, the thing that's returned from the model, and then it might pass it through a bunch of other things, like call a vector database that has a bunch of knowledge about the organization's data that they can use in their AIs and verify that, these points actually make sense and find the right material from the corporate, databases in a sense that are valuable and bring that back. And then they can take that and put it together and send that to a different model from a completely different provider, like Anthropic Claude is a very good writer. And so it can take that and write it. And so again, instead of sort of choosing a model or a model provider, that doesn't make sense. The right way to do it is to use the right model at the right time for the right task. And it's not just models, right? Like it's calling many other types of services. It's searching the web, or it's referencing internal, corporate data, and sort of countless other things that people need to do when they are automating processes or partially automating processes, or looking for efficiencies. And so this problem of fragmentation, I guess the point is there's no need to try to solve it or understand it. It doesn't make any sense to try to do that anyway. By the way, all of these model providers are just cloud services. They're like AWS or Azure, Google Cloud. And, they're just metered commodities. And so you can use any and all of them. There's no need to try to evaluate them against one another, for 99.999% of use cases.
Now, if you look at MindStudio itself, if possible, can you share what kind of organizations, what kind of companies are using it? If you cannot name the companies, just share the kind of use cases you have seen.
Yeah, on our website, MindStudio.ai, in the enterprise section, you can see a matrix that we've broken out by job functions, HR, marketing, sales, et cetera, of the kinds of patterns that we're seeing organizations, implementing. So what kinds of companies are using it? All kinds. Giant multinational, enterprises in pretty much all industries. Government agencies, small and medium-sized businesses of all types, solopreneurs, sort of individuals that have some kind of an endeavor that they're doing, also are looking for productivity and efficiency and intelligence and like all of these things that you can orchestrate with MindStudio. So very diverse, smattering of customers that are using. As I mentioned earlier, over 50,000 of these AI applications have already been deployed. I'll tell you about some of the patterns that we see. They tend to, cluster into, again, those things that I described, which is complete automation, partial automation where AI does the heavy lifting and human is there to assist. Or the next pattern is where human is doing the heavy lifting and the AI is there to assist, custom business applications, and then sort of like human ad hoc needs some interaction with a conversational agent, but the enterprise doesn't want them using something like ChatGPT because that's sort of a generic thing. And the enterprise can provide for each job function a custom conversational assistant that knows about the enterprise and the job function that it's serving and can assist better. So those are generally the types of patterns we see. Some more specific examples. Many companies most companies have some kind of a form on their website that potential customers, for example, fill out, or support forms or things like that. Contact forms that people need to fill out. And then once they press submit, those things tend to go somewhere. And in the past, depending on how many of those you get, you might have a whole team of people that's just sitting there and sort of waiting for these new form submissions to come in, and then sort of parse them and try to figure out what to do with these things. Some of those form submissions might be complete, and the human knows exactly who to pass them to. Some might be incomplete, and the human has to reply back via email and say, I need more information, or I need to disambiguate that. Then the human needs to get that, and they need to sort of cluster them and figure out where to route them. Well, all of that can be automated now. And so we see lots of AIs that are built to watch an email inbox or watch some, bucket or some database. And whenever something comes in, it takes it and processes it and follows up and disambiguates and clusters and passes it on to whatever the next part of the process is. And that might be a human, or that might be another AI that it passes it on to. And so you can see that obviously in e-commerce and sales, support, HR. So, it's a big government agency that's using it to process thousands of resume submissions that they get. And before that, they used to have people doing it. No longer. Now AI is able to do it. So that's one sort of common approach we see. Another one is, oftentimes sales takes the lead in a bunch of organizations because there's sort of clear ROI. If you can get your salespeople selling more revenue comes in, and that's obviously super important. And sales is sort of a notoriously inefficient process. There's like self-service sales where people show up to your website and read it and figure out what they want to do and then just give you money, right? And those are great. But for anything that requires humans to be involved, sales is a very inefficient process where human needs to speak with a potential customer and understand their needs and then be able to answer their questions and be able to read the human on the other side to sort of grok whether the human is understanding what they're saying, what questions they might not be asking, and all of that. And so great salespeople perform radically better than average salespeople. Well, the good news now is that AI can work in conjunction with salespeople and sort of be another party watching what's happening in this back and forth with customers. For example, almost everyone's now recording and transcribing their meetings, right? We see things like Otter or Fireflies or these various transcription assistants that show up in our meetings. Most of the time, that transcript goes into some bucket and just sits there. But now organizations are using MindStudio to build AI applications that watch that bucket. And the AI is sitting there, in a sense, asking the question, is the customer ready to buy or not? They're asking a bunch of questions. Let me prepare materials and give to the salesperson so the salesperson right after the meeting can send it to them with all the answers to their questions. The salesperson doesn't need to go gather that material. The AI is watching the conversation, is gathering those materials. As soon as the call is over, the material is ready to go. Or the AI can be doing more sophisticated things, sort of like asking the question of like, what questions is the potential customer not asking? And because they're not asking those questions, they probably don't really understand what our product does and are not ready to buy. And let me go ahead and sort of answer those questions for them that they failed to ask, because we know that once they understand these parts, then they are much more, prone to convert. So this like sales assistance, sales intelligence, marketing automation, marketing collateral generation, things like that. And lots of things for analyzing operations of a company, analyzing data, analyzing efficiencies, finding inefficiencies, finding anomalies, the stuff that generative AI can do, except now you can package it specifically for whatever process you've got in your organization and have it run either autonomously or supervised.
I also want to go a bit deeper into the approach that you have where you provide a kind of model agnostic platform. Focus is on interface, of course, with no code, ease of use. From developers' perspective, how that makes their life easier, whether it's developer or operators, which frees a lot of their time to focus on writing business applications.
Totally. Yeah. So even though most of the applications that are built with MindStudio are built by non-technical business users, so people on the ground, HR managers and project managers and product managers and sales managers and salespeople, whatever. Anyone can build it. Anyone can learn to do it. Doesn't require any coding. If you are a software developer, and many software developers use MindStudio as well, how do they use it? So when you're building an application as a software developer, there are, many things, obviously, that you need to consider and need to build. And now some of those things are, calling AI models, leveraging the power of all of these generative AI models. And even though software developers could sort of write raw code to be able to make those connections to those models and sort of process all that data sort of at that code level, instead of doing that, they realized that it's much faster and easier to simply use, MindStudio to build that abstraction layer, to build that connection to the intelligence layer, and then take those AI applications that they've built. There are two ways that you can publish MindStudio applications. One is applications that have human front-end interfaces, so input-output screens and forms. And the second way is what's called headless. So developers create these headless MindStudio AIs, and those AIs expose API endpoints that can then be called by developers programmatically. And so build parts, basically. Developers can use MindStudio to build intelligent parts that leverage all these different models, and those parts are integrated into their applications, via API calls.
Now, I want to talk about one more aspect, which is as hot as GenAI or AI these days, which is security. In early days, security used to be an afterthought, somebody else's problem, but it is becoming a priority. And especially when we're looking at these non-technical, non-developer folks building these applications, what about security? How do you ensure that there is no compromises when it comes to security and compliances?
There are a lot of things in that question. There's security from the standpoint of what do the employees that are building these applications, what resources do they have access to inside the organization? And there again, the security and sort of administrative privileges that are granted to them to use in these applications. This is a function of basic IT that they've got today. It has nothing to do with AI. It simply is, am I the sales manager inside the organization? If I'm building a MindStudio application and I want to reference a database in my company, do I have rights to be able to do that? And if the answer is yes, then I can do it. And if the answer is no, then obviously I can't. Most people, when they talk about sort of security, and they mostly mix security and privacy together when it comes to AI, they talk about sort of the interface of from the AI calling a model, from the AI application calling a model in the cloud, right? So OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, whatever. And might there be sort of data leakage that if I pass a bunch of things to this model in the cloud, might there be some security breakdown there? And that, again, that becomes sort of also standard function. You need to understand, one, do you trust the cloud provider? And so it depends on, do you trust Google and Amazon and Meta and OpenAI, like these reputable companies, when they explicitly state that when you pass data to them via API, they do not collect the data, they do not use it in training, yada, yada. So if you trust them, then again, no new security issues are introduced. If for whatever reason you don't trust them or you can't trust them, the approach is to run your own inference. And so you spin up your own private cloud on whatever cloud provider you want. You provision, compute resources. You install a model, typically an open source model. You train it. And again, typically these are smaller models rather than large models. And then you call those models as part of your workflow in the AI. So it's a function of architecture. But there's nothing sort of really unique that's introduced by AI when it comes to, security.
One more thing I want to ask is that can you talk a bit about what kind of growth you have seen of MindStudio and what is driving this growth?
Between 84 and 86% of our growth is completely organic, where people discover MindStudio mostly through word of mouth, not even SEO, and show up and create a free account and watch some YouTube tutorials and start building. We also host, webinars, and we have a full day certification class that a third party hosts and administers, etc. So the growth has been organic. We just hired our first go-to-market resource. This is her third week, and she is director of partnerships, because not only have we grown organically in business users showing up and creating accounts and building applications, but also now there's over 200 integration partners that have shown up, various types of IT integrators, business process automation companies, and various other sort of service providers, professional service providers that help enterprises do IT, right? And now those service providers are being asked by their enterprise clients, hey, can you build things for me using MindStudio? And so these service providers have shown up at our door and said, hey, our customers love MindStudio. We want to build for them. Help us get onboarded. And so we now have a partner program, and Danielle, who again just started 2.5 weeks ago, is running that, and we're leaning into that. And so soon we'll be doing some additional sort of growth things there. And as I mentioned, over 50,000 AIs have been created and deployed, and so that's kind of how growth has happened here.
What are the things that you folks are working on? What we can expect from MindStudio this year?
I think the general outline of what the product is and does is there already. MindStudio is a platform that allows organizations to transform their operations, or all parts of their operations, to find efficiencies, productivities, intelligence, etc. Again, by creating these automations and assistants and all of that. And so we will be doing more of that, right? Making the platform deeper and broader to allow organizations to do it faster and do more and that. Lots more, things for kind of multinational, sort of giant enterprises to be able to kind of manage large implementations better. Much deeper, AI-driven business intelligence. So when organizations use MindStudio, again, when they've created all of these AI applications using MindStudio, and now their organization is running partially autonomously and partially assisted, there's a lot of visibility that now comes to the organization via MindStudio of how is that working? How is our automation working? Or how is this assistance part working? And then AI can look at sort of all this information and again, find even more inefficiencies. So it's sort of a constant process. It's not just set it and forget it. It's sort of constantly being able to optimize. And the models themselves, right? The intelligence layer, all of the different types of models are getting, better and better and broader in their capabilities. And so as they have more capabilities and as they get better, MindStudio allows the enterprise to keep leveling up their operations. It's clear that the next phase of running businesses is all about efficiency and productivity and intelligence. And if you're still doing it sort of the old craftsman way, where you're using hand tools instead of power tools, well, kind of good luck with that. That's not going to work. At least competitively, it's not going to work. It might be artisanal, but it's not very competitive. There's more. So as I mentioned, lots of organizations that already use MindStudio want their own private models for various reasons. And some are, privacy security. Others is because smaller, more finely tuned models are actually faster and better at delivering results for whatever part of the workflow that they're used for. The problem is that most organizations don't know how to build a model like that and deploy it and do that. We'll be announcing that we'll make it trivially easy for them to be able to do that, to in a sense build their own models utilizing their own data, spin them up in their own private cloud, and then obviously MindStudio is automatically connected to that, and they can instantly start leveraging those models.
Dmitry, thank you so much for taking time out today and talk about MindStudio. Thanks for great insights. And I would love to talk to you folks again, but I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.